Hello friends, welcome to this new lecture. In this lecture, we are going to understand a case study on generative AI that we will be implementing in the upcoming lectures. This case study will help us to understand the various use cases that are possible with the generative AI, and this entire case study on generative AI we will execute on our local system. This case study is specifically useful for DevOps and DevSecOps engineer, as this case study can help us in their day-to-day tasks. So let's learn about this case study. So in this case study, we will act as a DevOps engineer who has been given the task to identify error in a log file. This log file has log entries for various REST APIs, and these entries are success entries and few entries are error entries. So basically this means this REST API has generated some errors, and all these success and error entries for these REST APIs have been captured in this log file. As a DevOps engineer, you have been given the task to identify these errors, the reason for these errors, and the steps using which you can fix such errors within REST APIs. If as a DevOps engineer you are not comfortable with REST APIs, then it will be a challenging task for you. And if the log file is huge, and then also it will take a lot of time for you to either manually perform this task or to write a script to perform this task. But we will use generative AI system to read this log file and help us to identify error entries in these log files. We will also take help from this AI system to provide us the REST API that has these errors along with the explanation of this error, and we will also take help from this AI system to help us with these steps to fix these errors. Now the next question is how this AI model will read this log file. In order to understand the entries in this log file, the AI model will convert this log file to vector embeddings. We discussed about embeddings in the previous lectures as well. These vector embeddings help AI models to understand the semantics of the data present in the input. Once these embeddings are generated, the AI model will store these embeddings in the vector store. Once the embeddings are stored in vector store and the entire ingestion process is complete, we will send queries as a user to this AI model, and we will ask about the error present in log file. And our private GPT will help us by identifying error in the log file, the reason for this error, the API that has this error, and also the steps to fix this error. And our private GPT will provide us a response that will contain the error entry in the log file, the API that has this error, the user for which this error was reported, the timestamp of the error, the reason for this error, and the steps to fix this error. So all these details our private GPT will provide us as a response by understanding our query. So this is the summary of the case study that we are trying to implement. Now let's understand the various steps that we will take in order to implement this case study of generative AI. The first step that we will have to do is to install C++ build tools and Windows 11 SDK on our Windows machine in case we are using Windows. This is required for running this personal GPT system. The next step will be to install Ollama. Ollama helps us to download and run AI models on our local machine. We will install Ollama and then we will also use it to download and run models. Once we install Ollama on our local system, we will move to the next step where we will clone our personal GPT GitHub repo on our local system. I have customized the personal GPT repo. This repo is inspired from private GPT repo. I have made some modifications for this demonstration. I'll provide the GitHub repo link in the resources section of the lecture. Once that is done, we will move to the next step where we will use Conda to create an isolated environment with Python 3.11 installed in that environment. The reason for doing this is the personal GPT requires Python 3.11 and has been specifically tested on this Python version. That's why we will be installing this version to ensure that this Python GPT runs successfully and our case study is implemented without any error. If you already have a Python installed on your system with a different version, you need not to worry, since Conda will create an isolated environment with Python 3.11 and we will activate that environment to perform the rest of the task inside the environment. It would not impact your existing Python installation. Once we have created an isolated environment and we have activated this environment, we will move to the next step where we will install the required packages or dependencies in this isolated environment. All the dependent packages are defined in the requirements file which is present in this GitHub repo. So we just need to install the packages defined in the requirements file. Once the packages are installed, we will move to the next step where we will ensure that Ollama is running on our system with the model that we are going to use for this demonstration, and we will place our log file in the input documents directory present in this personal GPT GitHub repo that we have cloned. It means we will be placing a log file in the personal GPT GitHub repo that we have cloned in a local system. There is an input underscore documents directory where we will place this log file. This input underscore documents directory is already created in this personal GPT GitHub repo. When I'll share the repo, I will place a sample log file in this directory as well for implementing this use case. Once we have placed the log file at the correct location, we will move to the next step where we will ingest the log file in the AI model. The AI model will read the log file from input documents directory, will generate embeddings for it and will store in a vector store. We will also see what kind of store is created and we will also go through some of the code that performs these steps. Once we have ingested the log file in the AI model, we will be ready to move to the final step, which is running our personal GPT to find errors in the log file. The GPT will ask us to enter our query. We will provide a prompt to the GPT and then personal GPT will identify errors in the log file and will also provide various details related to this error, like the REST API which has this error, the reason for the error, the steps to fix this error, and few more details. So that's how we will implement this case study that is quite useful for DevOps and DevSecOps engineer, where an AI system will run on our local Windows machine and will help us to identify errors in a log file and will also provide detailed steps on how to fix this error. It's going to be a really interesting case study that we are going to implement in the upcoming lectures. If you have any query or if you face any issues during this entire case study implementation, please leave your queries in the Q&A section and I'll be more than happy to help. Stay tuned. Now we are going to implement this entire case study in the upcoming lectures. It's going to be hands-on. Thanks for watching. See you in the next lecture.